Hi, how are you today? Hope that you're doing great. Now, in the previous discussion, we're talking about Immanuel Kant. It's very simple. If you can still remember in the previous discussions that we have had, I was able to mention about the well-known philosopher, an Indian philosopher says, do not compare yourself to others because the more you compare yourself to others, the more you're insulting yourself. And that's the thing that I've learned so much from the theory of Immanuel Kant. Do not compare yourself, be yourself. Now, this morning we are going to talk about, or this day, we are going to talk about the theory of Sigmund Freud of how he would be able to perceive these things para mas lalo natin maintindihan ang ating sarili. Okay, now, let's continue. Sigmund Freud is a philosopher, physiologist, and psychologist. Sigmund Freud was one of the most influential thinkers in the 20th century. His most important contribution, particularly in psychology, was psychoanalysis, a practice devised to treat those who are mentally ill through dialogue. The vast majority of European philosophers before Freud, from Plato, Aristotle, to Kant, and Descartes, now regarded human beings as having an essence to which the self-soul is ascribed. Always remember that the famous line of Sigmund Freud is wish fulfillment is the road to the unconscious. Ano yun? The road of the unconscious later we're going to have a step-by-step how we be able to understand our conscious, subconscious, and preconscious and conscious. Now let's continue. The self was an entity in itself characterized as the subject, the focal point, the topic, the doer, and of the action. So, tayo yun. We are talking about self here. We're not talking about other people. We are talking about the reality of who really we are in terms of making an action towards to others. Okay? Especially to the people surrounds us. Now, the notion is that the self is the essence and subject points to the idea of an entity that is unified, single, undivided, and unaffected by time. Freud, however, did not accept the existence of any single entity that could be put forward as the notion of self. His work in the field of psychoanalysis was groundbreaking because it answered questions about the human psyche in a way that no one else had before him. In psychology, the psyche is the study of the totality of the human mind, both conscious and unconscious, according to Watson, 2014. In his earlier structural division of the psyche, Freud distinguished three levels of consciousness rather. Conscious, which deals with awareness of present perceptions, feelings, thoughts, memories, and fantasies at any particular moment. Pag sinabi nating present perceptions, ngayon nakikita mo ako, nakikita niyo ako, narinig mo ako. Paano yung feelings? You get interested, you get bored, it's because you're not into it. Hindi mo lubusang naintindihan kung ano yung ginagawa because you haven't tried to open your mind and heart in knowing and letting in those new information that you wish for you, that something that can help you. Sabi nga ni Freud, wish fulfillment is the road to the unconscious. The thoughts. Conscious ka sa iniisip mo ngayon. Memories. The past memories, the present memories. Ayun, posible magkakaroon ka ng future memories. Hindi mo, wala ka pa doon. Wala ka sa kasalukuyan. Andito ka kasi naharap. Anong naramdaman mo ngayon? Anong iniisip mo ngayon? Pabalik-balik? Ganito na ang estado ng buhay ko? Hindi ako masaya? Sino ba talaga nag-drive ng buhay mo ngayon? Diba? Ikaw lang. Do not blame others. Ask yourself para mas lalo mong maintindihan at magkakaroon ka ng ganang mamuhay ng matiwasay sa pag-iisip at sa puso. Okay? Fantasies, it's good to fantasize at any particular moment. Ang ganda pala na. New Zealand. Ganda pala ng Hong Kong. Ang sarap ng bakasyon ko doon. Kailan ka pumunta? Nag-fantasize ka lang. Iba din yung fantasize of pleasure. Masaklap yun. Kasi forbidden yun. That's taboo. Pero yung iba, gumagawa ng mga exhibition para mapansin ang kanilang fantasies. Okay? Preconscious or subconscious, which is related to data that can readily be brought to consciousness. Paano ba to? Nag-iisip ka pa lang, pero taka ka, oh, ba't nandiyan na? Iniisip ko pa lang. Di ba? Andito pa lang yan sa preconscious mo. Pero di mo inalintana, nagkakatotoo na pala yung iniisip mo. Okay? Unconscious, which refers to data retained but not easily available to the individual's conscious awareness or scrutiny. Pag sinasabi mo, ito yung gusto ko, paano kayo ito i-materialize? Saglit, ba't blanco utak ko? Wala akong maisip. Pero may gusto akong ninanais, pero hindi ko masasabi. Okay? Did you get what I mean? Okay. It's good that you are trying to think right now. That's a good gesture, perhaps. Okay, let's continue. Central to Freud's psychoanalytic theory was the proposed existence of the unconscious as a repository of traumatic repressed memories. May mga traumatic experiences din tayo. The same with me. I do have also a traumatic experience during my childhood days. And it was already removed when I took up this particular course through the help of my late professor, Dr. Herminia Ugay. She helped me on how to process myself by using the empty chair, thanks to late Dr. Herminia Ugay. Okay? The source of anxiety-provoking drives that is socially or ethically unacceptable to the individual. Anxiety-provoking. Minsan na-provoke ka nito. Ano ba yung mga bagay-bagay na nakakaroon ka ng the source of anxiety-provoking? Okay? Try to think of those things para it brings into your consciousness and try to face slowly by slowly para ma-overcome mo din siya. Hindi sa buong buhay mo dadalhin mo na yan. I had a friend of mine now na during his teen years, pumunta lang siya na isang lugar dito sa Davao City. So, dumaan siya sa madilim na area. Hindi niya sukat akalain na may mga bandits pala doon. Pinagtutulong-tulungan siya. Humingi siya ng saklolo, pero never siya tinulungan. Hanggang sa nakatawag ng pansin yung mga kaibigan niya, kaya yun, rumess back. Pero napakaroon na siya ng traumatic na yan. Like every time makakita siya ng mga kalye, mga bagay-bagay na madidilim, has something to do with traumatic memories niya. Bumabalik. Pero dahan-dahan niya na proseso yung sarili niya. You need to help that person. Do not judge the person. Help by slowly. Do not provoke the person para mas lalo niya katakutan. But do it in a nice manner. Okay? Psychoanalytic theory is a personality theory based on the notion that an individual gets motivated by unseen forces, controlled by the conscious and the rational thought. Sigmund Freud did not exactly create the notion of the conscious versus unconscious, or conscious versus unconscious mind. But he certainly was responsible for making it popular, and his main contribution to psychology, according to McLeod 2008. To explain his model, Freud used the analogy of the iceberg to describe the three levels of the mind. Now, we're going now to enter into levels of mind. Let's try to double check everything. If there is a correlation with the other philosophers' ideas about ourselves or ourselves, okay? Freud further structured the psyche mind into three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. Let's try to define first the id in accordance with the description that was given to us by the author as well as the other authors. Okay? It operates on the pleasure principle. Every wishful impulse should be satisfied immediately, regardless of the consequences. When the id achieves its demand, you experience pleasure. When it's denied, you experience unpleasure or tension. Paano ba to? Pag binigay sa iyo ang gusto mo, masaya ka. Pag sinagot yung mga tanong mo, happy ka. Paano pag hindi nasagot? Nagmamakdol ka, nagmumura ka. Pag nagtatanong ka sa mga guro nyo, pag hindi ka nabigyan ng sapat na sagot, anong i-conclude natin? Bobo ang teacher, bobo si mama, bobo si ate, bobo si kuya, bobo si papa. Huwag naman ganun. Or hindi ka na satisfied, ganun kagad isipin natin. Every wishful impulse should be satisfied. Gusto mong kumain, pero hindi mo iniisip ang resulta nito. Masarap yung humba or adobo, lechon. Pag too much, hindi maganda na din yun. You must learn also the consequences nito sa health natin. Pag satisfied ka kasi nakakuha ka ng sagot sa eksaminasyon, nakakuha ka ng magandang marka, then doon ka, nagkakaroon ka ng pleasure. Paano pag nabagsak ka? Ayan, mahirap na. Surrender ka na kaagad. Di ba? How about the ego? It operates according to the reality principle. It works out realistic ways of satisfying its demands, often compromising or postponing satisfaction to avoid negative consequences of society. The ego considers social realities and norms, etiquette, and rules in deciding how to behave. If the ego fails to use the reality principle outside its experience, and unconscious defense mechanisms are employed to help ward off unpleasant feelings. So paano mo to ang realidad? If somebody who cannot able to appreciate of what you're doing, nasasaktan ka, takot ka na ngayon, nagkakaroon ka na ng very low of self-esteem. Pero pag napansin yung ginagawa mo, pero duwag ka pa rin, ano ang gagawin mo? Maghanap ka ngayon ng lakas ng loob na siya magtutulak sa'yo para ma-push mo lalo yung nagustuhan mo. Paano yung realidad ngayon? Estudyante ka, college student, professional. Pero pag ugali natin ay hindi akma sa pinapakita natin sa mga taong nakapaligid. Di ba? Walang saysay ang lahat. It's good also that we are aware of what we're doing in the reality of who really you are right now. Do not boost yourself that you are better than them, that you are better than me, that you're better to other people, that you're better to your parents, to your siblings. No. Always be yourself. Humble. It's very important. That is a virtue that no one can snatch from you if you knew how to apply it to yourself. The humbleness of the heart, it's the greatness in God's kingdom. Yeah? Okay? Superego, it incorporates the values and morals of society. The superego's function is to control the its impulse. It persuades the ego to choose moralistic goals, to strive for perfection rather than simply realistic ones. So ito yung taga-balance. Sinabi niya, it's not the right time to do it. Huwag ka munang kumain. Lechon, for example. Sabi naman ni Id, kain ka, what I want to do it now. Sabi naman ni superego, it's not the right time for you to eat now. Maybe we can compromise to do it later or this. No, o tigas pa rin ulo mo. Hindi ka nakikinig. Let's try to have this in one word. Si id, instincts. Si ego, reality. Si superego, morality. Balance siya. Good, continue. Bad, stop. Okay? Si id, instinct. Si ego, reality. Si superego, morality. Kaya huwag nating kalimutan yun. You must listen also to superego kasi siya nag-balance. Ang gusto mo lang, nakikita mo lang ngayon. Pero hindi mo iniisip kung anong resulta sa nakikita mo ngayon at hindi mo iniisip kung anong resulta sa ginagawa mo ngayon. Masarap mangopya, pero hindi mo iniisip na wala kang natutunan. Every time that you are used to cheat, wala ka pa rin natutunan doon. Maganda nga yung marka mo. Pero, paano na lang ito? Kumusta si Google? Di ba? Kumusta yung totoong ikaw sa tinatahak mo na kurso ngayon? Okay? especially in these online classes, very, very challenging to each one of us. Okay? Now, the superego consists of two systems, the conscience and ideal self. If the ego gives you to the age demands, the superego may make the person feel bad through guilt. Ayan. Nagigilty ka ngayon kasi kumain ka ng bawal ng mga pagkain. Eh ngayon, nagkasakit ka. Bumigay yung system ng katawan mo. Nakakonsensya ka. Eh kaninong kasalanan yun? Sa iyo din. Alam mo nang bawal mangopya, nangopya ka pa rin, nag-copyright ka pa. Akala mo hindi madidetect ron yun ng system? Mali tayo. Alam mo hindi nakakasama yung lechon sa pato. Masarap ang lechon. Huwag lang too much. Masarap may karelasyon. Huwag lang bumigay. Kasi kawawa ka. Ate, mag-isip-isip ate. Dito ate ha. Huwag padalos-dalos. Ikaw din ang sasaktan kuya. Respeto naman kuya. Sina ate, hindi sila laruan. Anong akala mo sa kanila? Tapos pagkatapos, nakonsensya ka kasi nasaktan mo puso niya, kasi pinilit mo. Anong klaseng konsensya yon? May permission na gawin lahat? Eh kagaya na ngayon, nasaktan mo si mama. Kinuha si mama ni God. Nagsisisi ka. Oo, nagigilty ka. Dahil ikaw ang cause nun. You must be lucky, class. Sa kabila ng dagok ng pandemya, sa kabila ng dagok ng buhay, nanatili pa rin si mama at papa, handang-handang tumulong at umalalay sa iyong pangangailangan. If you are a working student, you must be lucky. You must be proud of. Because nakatulong ka rin kay mama at sa sarili mo, sa mga kapatid mo. If you are a working student, that's not the end of the world. You're not the loser, but you are the greatest champion in that particular field that you have right now. Ang importante lang masaya ka sa ginagawa mo at wala kang naapakan at wala kang nasasaktan. Okay? Now, the ideal self is an imaginary picture of how you ought to be. It represents career aspirations, how to treat other people, and how to behave as a member of a society. Kaya nga karamihan sa aking mga mag-aaral, when they graduated, they used to call me Col. I don't like them to call me sir outside the campus. I don't like them to call me sir, especially in the society. I want them to call my name. I want them to call kung saan sila nasanayan. But majority of my friends who graduated already, they used to call me Col. Parang barkada ang dating. Ayoko yung too much ng authority. I don't like that kind. Nakikita niyo ba yung sarili niyo ngayon sa kursong kinukuha niyo? You're aspiring of becoming an engineer, an educator, an architect, a policeman, policewoman, HRM graduate, di ba? Mga hoteliers, accountant, and so on and so forth, nurse, doctor. Try to double check and try to make it to yourself. Ikaw na yan eh. Subukan mo nang i-apply dahan-dahan but not too much. Huwag mong sabihin sa social, ay, respetuhin niyo kasi ito yung tapos ko. No, you must learn to submit also yourself sa society. And you must learn also to dig yourself sa society para mas makuha mo kung ano yung gusto nila. Kasi the more you humble yourself sa society, the more ka nilang sasaluduhan. Pero the more ka magmamayabang, my goodness, walang tutulong sa'yo niyan. The ideal self is you. Kung paano mo pinapahalagahan yung kursong kinukuha natin ngayon at paano pinahalagahan yung mga bagay-bagay na siyang naglugmok sa'yo at naging kaginawaan mo ngayon. Huwag mong kalimutan yun, lalo na mga taong nakapaligid sa'yo. Mga magulang natin, they are the reason behind why we are here sa estado ng buhay natin. Kung wala sila, wala rin tayo ngayon. Wala ka din dyan ngayon. Okay? Now, according to Freud, the structure of the mind, the ego, the superego function in different levels of consciousness. There's a constant movement of memories and impulses from one level to another. The id, on the other hand, is unaffected by reality, logic, or the everyday world as it operates within the unconscious part of the mind. Okay? Tandaan natin si id, the instinct, si ego, the reality, si superego is the morality. Sinasabi ni id, I want to do this, I want to do it, I want to do it now. Si id yan. Pag sinasabi naman ni superego, it's not the right time to do it. Pag sinasabing it's not the right time to do it, superego yan. Pag sinabi naman ni ego, maybe we can compromise. Ang realidad, sige nga, tingnan natin kung di ba tayo nasasaktan. Kasi sa lahat ng mga bagay-bagay sa mundo, walang ibang nananakit sa'yo, kundi ikaw lang. Tandaan natin, you must learn also to love ourselves but not too much. You must learn to fall in love to yourself before you're falling in love to someone whom hindi nila masuklian yung totoong pagmamahal na ibigay nila sa iyo. Mahalin mo muna yung kinukuha mong kurso ngayon, mahalin mo muna yung trabaho na tinatahak mo sa kasalukuyan, at higit sa lahat, mahalin mo yung sarili mo na akma at hindi sobra to the point na ma-misinterpret ka ng iba. Ang higit sa lahat, iwasang ikumpara ang sarili sa iba kasi bawat isa sa atin ay unique at bawat isa sa atin ay may angking kagalingan at mga pag-uugaling tayo lang ang nakakaalam. God bless everyone. Enjoy to our next journey for the next topic. God bless. Mabuhay tayong lahat.